All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, during a red carpet interview at the NFL Honors last night in Las Vegas, New York Jets team owner Woody Johnson let ESPN's Jeff Darlington and the rest of the football world know his feelings about the franchise that he has owned now for nearly a quarter century. Now, Johnson was and is clearly not pleased at the fact that the Jets only went 7 and 10 this past season after the year began with such high hopes for this team. Johnson would basically go on to put general manager Joe Douglas and head coach Robert Saleh on notice, while all but closing the door on the Zach Wilson era with the Jets. Now, uh, Johnson was basically quoted as saying, "The discussions I've had in the last couple of months, they've seen me about as mad as I can be with what was going on with the offense, particularly. We have all this talent and we have to deploy talent properly. So I think they all got the message. This is it. This is the time to go. We've got to produce this year." Johnson did not stop there. He also said we've got to do a lot better than 7 wins. Talking about Salah, he also mentioned that Robert Salah needs to concentrate on the offense. And he also didn't stop there. Uh, he went on to talk about Zach Wilson. He said, "Listen, you need a backup quarterback. We didn't have one last year." And that just basically sums up the Jets in a nutshell. It's one of those where you look at this Jets team, the last time that they were on the field in a postseason game, you got to go back to January 2011 when they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC Championship game. And since that time, the Jets have had 15 different starting quarterbacks, 4 general managers, and 4 head coaches. Now, I'll tell you like this: Woody Johnson can get mad at Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, and Zach Wilson all that he wants. But he's the one who put these people in their current positions. You think about this past season. Now, the Jets were all in after they made that trade of quarterback to get quarterback Aaron Rodgers from the Green Bay Packers. And of course, we know how the season went belly up on opening night when Rodgers suffered that Achilles injury, changed the entire landscape of the season for the Jets. Now, I'll touch on that in a moment, but the Jets, in regards to Zach Wilson, I've said this before and I will say it again. They have nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, to blame for themselves at the fact that Zach Wilson is not the answer at quarterback. And it's one of those where you think about it. Go back to 2021. The Jets took Zach Wilson second overall. There were 5 quarterbacks that got drafted in the first round that year. Zach Wilson was the only quarterback that the Jets worked out. Not only that, they went to watch him on an indoor field at BYU on his pro day and were convinced that's their guy. And if you think about pro days, typically you're in a comfortable environment if you're a player. Okay, you're just running routes in sweats and shorts and a t-shirt. And if you're a quarterback, you're basically like going over your favorite plays with receivers that you're most comfortable with. Zach Wilson, and I said this after the end or during the 2022 NFL season, the Jets needed to move on from Zach Wilson. But in their thought process, you know what? We could keep him around and let him learn from Aaron Rodgers. Well, we saw how that went because Zach Wilson was thrust into action in week number 1. And of course, it was not pretty. We saw the Jets go through 4 different starting quarterbacks this past season. And at the end of the day, now it looks like the Jets are going to already, at least, to move on from Zach Wilson. Well, you know what? too little, too late. They should have done it after last season, gotten themselves a backup behind Aaron Rodgers, and maybe, just maybe, we're talking about this team slightly different than we are right now. Now, you look at Joe Douglas, he has not had a stellar record as the general manager of the Jets, and neither is Robert Saleh as the Jets head coach. Robert Saleh is 18 and 23, while Joe Douglas is 27 and 60. Joe Douglas was the guy who hired Adam Gase rather to be the Jets head coach a couple of years prior to bringing in Robert Saleh, and we know what the train wreck that was, the Adam Gase era with the Jets was. Now, getting back to Robert Saleh, yes, he has shown some signs of being a quality, solid head coach at least, but he attached his wagon to Zach Wilson, and that's the thing. When you're drafting a quarterback that early, it better work out. And if it doesn't, well, you know what? The proof is in the pudding as far as what has happened with the Jets. Zach Wilson has been so bad. That's why the Jets had to go out there and make the trade for one Aaron Rodgers, and of course, now Robert Saleh has attached his wagon rather to the veteran Aaron Rodgers. But the bottom line is things better be different for this Jets team in 2022. They better go out there and kick ass. And if not, Woody Johnson's going to clean house. And first and foremost, for them to do that, they need a healthy Aaron Rodgers in 2024. How do you keep Rodgers healthy? Well, first of all, you really got to keep him from that turf at MetLife Stadium. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But nonetheless, the Jets have to run the football. They have a quality running back in Brees Hall, and they've got to get more production, and they have to improve their offensive line. The thing was, and the thought process was, and I could see and totally understand why the expectations were high for the Jets coming into the season. I picked them to be playing this weekend, okay? Because you look at the way that they've played defense the last couple of years under Robert Saleh, and you just simply sat back and said, wow, if only this team had themselves a quarterback, how much different would things be? Of course, the Jets came into this past season with a quarterback, and at the end of the day, we know how the rest worked out. But nonetheless, it's one of those, they got to fix that old line. Jet quarterbacks were sacked 64 times last season. And at the end of the day, you got to score more points than what the Jets have been able to do. Look at this Jets defense. Look how many times they limited teams to 20 points or less this past season. And speaking of those games, how many of those contests did the Jets lose? So it's one of those where, you know what, things have to change, but will they change for the New York Jets? I think the expectations are still going to once again be high for the Jets in 2024. But the bottom line is things better improve because people's jobs are on the line. I mean, people's jobs are on the line all the time in the National Football League. But I guarantee you, anything less than a postseason trip for the Jets and probably at least one win come next January means Robert Saleh and possibly Joe Douglas could be out of the door. 2010 is a long time ago. And you think about it, you get in those days, you got 6 spots for the postseason in each conference. Now it's 7. So you're talking about nearly half of your conference. And that additional wild card spot has really opened things up for teams. The Jets haven't even come close. You figure the Jets haven't finished with a winning record since 2015 when Todd Bowles was still the head coach. And since that time, 5 and 11, 5 and 11, 4 and 12, 7 and 9, 2 and 14, 4 and 13, and then 7 and 10 in each of the last 2 years under Robert Saleh. So the bottom line is, can things improve for the Jets? Yes. Will things improve for the Jets? We've got to wait and see. But nonetheless, Woody Johnson has basically put everybody in Florham Park on notice. And like I said, if things don't change, Gang Green will be handing out pink slips come next January. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.